subscribe.
The Angry Ops Guy podcast, featuring Mike and Christina, pushing the ops machine forward no matter the grind. Real talk, real stories, and hard truths from two battle-tested pros.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Angry Ops Guy. I'm Mike Galtieri. I've got the lovely Christina Pilarski with me. Christina, what's going on? Because it's been a horrible day in ops.
Oh boy.
God.
You know what? I need to take a screen. I was thinking about this. I wanted to take a screenshot of our like chat, our WhatsApp chat.
Please
Because
don't.
I feel like when we have no time, like when ops is on fire, we voice message one another. And then when we have time, like when we like write messages to each other. So I feel like that's my like, how busy are we and how many like strings of messages are there typed versus voiced?
Yeah, it's amazing what I can share with you over like a 7-minute audio clip recording versus trying to type a novel or bother you with an email or whatever, and vice versa. Like we've gotten more done through 5 or 6 audio clips than, again, we've talked in years, just because I don't have time to write Mike an email, and I'm sitting there at night saying, I want to see how Christina's doing, and we're building on theory. Shout out to Jack Porter Smith. He started that with me, and that's because of the time zones. He would send me stuff overnight while he was thinking, and then I would get it in the morning, and then we kind of got in this cadence, and it's allowed our friendship to be more frequent than the distance. And I've kind of adopted it with you and a couple others because it's a good way to get your thoughts out.
Yeah, it's true.
How many of those do you delete versus listen to?
Of yours? I listen to all of yours.
Like 2 out of every 6 you delete?
No, I listen to all of them. Honestly, even
Take
my
that,
shit.
Jackie boy.
Mike, you know who else is always listening? Staff are always listening to their ops managers. And I don't mean listening and then maybe hearing, doing, but they are always watching. They're always watching our examples. They're always watching what we're all about. And so today I thought we could talk about staff, but more specifically, onboarding staff and like creating a team. And when you know.
Great topic. And, we got to dive into it because all of us have staff in different ways. It doesn't have to be a massive team, but staffing is such a crucial part of growing your agency, but knowing how to scale it proportionate with your growth. And like Christina said, finding the right people for the right seats so that you can build that foundational element. Because if you don't, that's no different than the house, right? You have a crappy foundation of your house, the walls are going to blow over. If you have a strong foundation for your agency, you can expand and you can deal with the ripples that are going to come with that growth and the pain that comes with it.
Yeah, I definitely have, and I have I have so many stories about staff, but I was joking to you this week in a voice message that I have some sort of like post-traumatic stress around hiring. I have hiring trauma. I think that's very normal. I don't think the average, I don't know, staff person, client, whatever, I don't think they realize the amount of stress there is around hiring. Like I gave you this analogy in terms of it really is like inviting a stranger into your home. Like, yeah, you go through a thorough onboarding process, and yeah, maybe Sally knows Timmy through something and they've been introduced to you and whatever. But at the end of the day, you're inviting somebody you don't really know into a place that you've hopefully made function in a certain way, and you don't know what's going to happen.
That's such a good kind of visual of inviting somebody in your home, right? Our home is our safe space.
Yeah.
It's the element where you cannot wear pants and be comfortable and be vulnerable and things like that. I think what's most, and maybe I'll say this and then you see if you agree, like it's uncomfortable because now you're vulnerable again.
Yeah.
Right? Like your inner circle, which is your existing team or your foundation, they know you, they know the way you jive, they know the way you work, and they know the pressure of how it's going to be done. And now you're injecting somebody new in that, and your expectation is that they are going to just pick it up and go. But they've either got a history where they do it a certain way, they only know a different way. Some people love to play that card that, I've got this much experience and this is the way we do it. And you're like, no, you got hired at our agency and you're going to learn how we do it. Meaning it's not bad to put your own stamp on things and improve that, but you got to prove yourself first when you're the newest person on the team, because you need that validation that the team, not even leadership like Christina, it's the team. So for example, Emily being one of your key people that I've met, if Emily comes back to Christina and Peter and says, John is just awesome, right away, Christina's shoulders drop a little bit saying, I made the right hire. Or my gut's telling me, oh God, I want to vomit and is this going to be work and I'm spending extra money and so forth. But now I'm starting to get that validation and kind of reaffirmation that maybe my decision wasn't as bad as I mentally think it is, because that's what we do in ops, right? Is you want to get that ass kicker. You want to get that. Peter always used to say, my Peter always said, he goes, Mike, I want a team of Navy SEALs. And I understood it right away what he meant. And he wasn't being dramatic and he wasn't being over emphatic, but his vision was Navy SEALs are the people, whether they're consultants or strategists or marketers or developers, but we are the best of the best. Like, we are elite at what we do, and we carve out our niche of excellence, and we do it at a level that nobody else can. And I got that right away, and it stuck with me. I think he told me that like 12 years ago, and it's just stuck with me of that's the kind of team I want to build. And that doesn't mean that everybody's got to be the guy that goes into the jungle first and is willing to take bullets, but Navy SEALs means that unit works together and under conditions of stress, pressure, accountability, or just team morale and dynamic, we are in sync. And if you look at Navy SEALs, or, and again, I'm not a military man like Jeremy is and so forth, but military people, there's a brotherhood, if you will, there. And and the commonality is we've been to war together. And if you think about it in a weird way, even though digital marketing is nowhere near going into a country to defend something and loss of life, it's the same thing. We go to war every day, and if you got your troops around you, you're gonna attack more than retreat. And I think that's just a very important thing. And when you're looking at that vulnerability, that's that uncertainty, right? Do you want to bring in another soldier or mercenary that is good by record and portfolio and history, but do they jive with your Navy SEALs? Because one that doesn't is going to expose and make the rest vulnerable.
No, it's true. I mean, there's, like usual, so many places we can go from there, but
Are you a Navy SEAL? Do you want Navy SEAls, or do you just want a bunch of common people doing a bunch of common things?
it's true, right? I think your people in the world of digital marketing today, I truly believe your people need to be your differentiators.
Yes.
You think about anyone within WSI, it's about building trust with the person, with the owner, with the team, the people. That is our differentiator. Always will be. I mean, what is something I think I have learned over the years in terms of hiring, which jives with your personality assessment of the Navy SEAL, is hire for culture fit as opposed to technical fit. And I feel like you may shit on me for this, or maybe it might be controversial to people, but I would much rather hire the person who my team feels like, yeah, this person fits. This person has a seat on the bus here, rather than, ooh, who's this? So example, Karen, who is our marketing director, who I cannot imagine CIPR without. She came
Shout out
in,
Karen.
shout out Karen, great leader.
Nice lady. I actually had the fortune of meeting her about 2 weeks ago for talking about accessibility. Very, very nice lady. I'm looking forward to growing my relationship with her over the next year.
She hasn't given her notice.
Or getting her fired so that we can just keep purging employees from CIPR like episode 2.
No, God, please, no.
Karen, please stay.
Please stay, Karen. So the hiring process, and I want to talk about process because we maybe have a crazy process, but it came down when we were hiring Karen, and the position that she came to CIPR for originally years ago was the web manager, web project manager, I think was the title. The 2 finalists in the roster that has gone was one amazing human, too, could probably, build a website with, a tin can if they needed to, incredible technical ability, incredible skill set. Karen didn't have the technical experience, but had the personality. And through every conversation, through the interview process, in our interview process, you meet the whole team almost
Do
through,
you?
yeah, through the whole thing.
Really?
I want
Okay.
everyone's opinions of everyone. And it just became clear, nope, it's Karen. And so I really, in that moment, adopted the skills can be learned if it's the right person and the right personality. And, you know, let me be a little bit clear on this. Like, I'm obviously not going to hire I don't know, the waste custodian who has no experience whatsoever in digital marketing. Like, obviously she has a background in marketing. Obviously there was some digital marketing skill set, but when it came down to being a technician, she wasn't. Today is she? Absolutely. Because we've spent time and we've invested in it and
That's the key though. Investment.
yeah.
You're making an investment in your business. You're making an investment in the person. And if you approach it that way versus just trying to solve a reactionary need, then it can pan out because Karen is the wonderful example of exactly that. She did not have the skill set requirement that Christina and Peter ideally wanted at the time she got hired,
Yeah.
but they saw potential based on attitude. And so going back to something you said a few minutes ago, you said, you're probably going to shit on me for this. No, I'm not at all. I completely agree with you about culture. I really do. Maybe you're a little bit too robust with it. There's my shit on. But we're saying the same thing because again, my Peter has always used the process and
Right.
the mantra. And he said this to me as wisdom and guidance for me as I taken more responsibility on. He says, Mike, he goes, you can teach skills, but you can't teach attitude.
Right.
Mic drop, boom. Thank you, Peter Jasnewski. But it's so true. It solidifies what you just said is he looks at the potential of people. And if the attitude is there, excitement, eagerness, motivated to persevere, to dig in, to want to do something, what else? You can invest any amount of dollars and any amount of time in that person. You will make them an ass kicker.
Yeah.
But if they come in with a shitty attitude, sense of entitlement, this is the way we do it with the chest out versus the way CIPR or WSI does it. Right away, there's your first red flag because you're never going to get that person aligned with your core values. And you know, if you want to maybe take a stab into and complementing or connecting EOS to this conversation, which is this is EOS 101 in the seats and team dynamic, is the first step of gauging your seats. If they want it, do they get it, and can they do it? Is to tie it back to the core values.
Yeah.
Does these people align with the foundational core values that you have identified that you want to spearhead your company, both public facing to your customers, your proposals, and then how you act as a business? And every team member, no matter personality, sex, or age, have to comply. Because if they don't, they are not a good fit to represent your agency. And now you're wasting money in your investment because you will never solve that problem. Because now it's like trying to take your boyfriend or girlfriend and change them into what you want based on the person that you chose to date versus going to find the right person that jives and checks the boxes enough for you to want to be vulnerable and open up to them and hopefully materialize a
Yeah.
personal relationship. It's the same.
Hot tip, just like Peter made me take a personality test on date 2.
Can we talk about that? Because I remember this from the first time meeting you, and you guys had enough bravado to put this out in front of regional meetings in Canada. And I just loved it that he was this anal to be able to have you, such a lovely, intelligent business owner, in front of you. You're like, you know what, lady? You want me? Let's figure out if you're a quack via psychometric testing.
Peter Pilarski, we met, so we were both in politics at the time, which is an important kind of understanding in this whole thing. So I was working for a minister. Peter was a GR guy.
What is GR?
So government relations.
Okay, sorry.
The minister's staff, we all knew who these government relations, and I say guys because at the time they were all guys. They all hung out together. They were, they were kind of, if government was a high school, they were like the cool kids at the smoking door of high school.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. We have a whole tangled, you know, we're at different political events. Okay, yeah, okay. And then finally I'm like, all right, like let's hang out. Let's have coffee. Well, I think it was beers, and let's figure out if there's something more here. So we hang out, had a blast, talked the whole time, had a couple beers, and then went, okay, let's do this again. He, for the second date, pulls up on his motorcycle, pulls a book out of his bag, his side bag, his man bag, and goes, look, like before we go on a third date, I would really appreciate if you like read this book and told me what personality type you were, just so we can make sure that we're compatible. I I didn't lose my mind because this is like a new person. Like
But
I
what compelled you? So again, put some humor into this because it's such a fun reflection knowing how long you guys been married now?
going on 12 years.
12 years, 2 kids, joint partners in business as well. What enamored you with you to not slap him and say, hit the road, Jack, but said, okay, I'm actually going to do this? Was he that much of a Polish eye candy that you had to just be enamored with getting a psychometric test to make sure you're not a psychopath? Or you're like, this is the craziest request and I'm just going to do it because nobody's challenged me like this? What was it for you?
You know what? Let's take a bit of column A and column B on this one. Right. Like, I was young, like 23, and it's like, this is a cool guy. Like, yeah, I want a third date. Like, I'm having some fun.
So you thought a cool guy would pull a
Or
book out and ask a potential lady that he would like to date to analyze her personality assessment.
that aside was like, but that's why I took it. And then the other side was like, this is interesting, right? Like, I had never been asked that before. I'm like, this is interesting. I feel like it was like the perfect right time, right place in my life. Because again, I think, maybe even months before or a year before, I would have said, fuck you, like, thanks. But I feel like it
Bye.
was this place in my life where it's like, okay, this could be interesting. I remember reading it, sitting in bed reading it after I had
Without
figured out, okay,
without Peter by
without
herself.
Peter, without Peter, because I wasn't allowed to see him until I told him what my personality was, and being upset. Like, I remember being like, why the fuck do I have to do this? Like, it felt like work. It felt like putting in work. And I remember reading it. And then I remember reading about my personality going like, you are probably upset by things like this. And you do not like a loss of control. And you like to be the boss. And I'm like, oh, I see what's happening here.
But let's tie it back now. So now that's the story. It's humorous. It's crazy. It worked. But what did that teach you and him? He had a purpose.
Yeah.
He wanted to understand who you are and how you tick because he already knew what he needed to make him tick and jive. So he was already aware, self-aware of what he wanted, what he needed, and what, God forbid, he didn't want.
Yeah.
Hence why, if you take the humor out of it, he was protecting himself. And he was also, respectfully, if you think about it now, he was protecting you.
Yeah.
Because if your personality didn't jive with him and he said, well, I'm an AC, and you're like, well, I'm a CD, and then it says that those two don't jive, then let's not waste our time and say thank you for the 2 dates and go on your own ways versus saying, like so many people, God, it's been the last 5 years of my life, what a mistake.
Yeah.
And look at you guys now. You're even more succinct with each other in personal life and in business because you understand how each other's tick.
Yeah.
So that's my reflection, even though I took over there. What did it really show you about Peter? And what did it show you about yourself, and thus how Peter could understand the true Christina Polarski, or at the time, Christina maiden name?
Christina Rontanen. You know what? It opens this line, and you already said this, vulnerability.
Yeah.
It really does. It's very disarming. You think about a new relationship, you are trying to hide the worst parts of you. You are trying to be squeaky clean and put your best foot forward, and same thing in a job and same thing wherever you go. So now I have unloaded, this was an Enneagram personality test. I have now unloaded, my personality type is an 8, and an 8 is a challenger. And boom, here's all the great stuff about it, but also the shitty stuff about it. And I think it enabled us early on in the relationship to be able to have really deep, meaningful conversations about ourselves. And I wouldn't say, maybe you'd have to interview Peter on this one. for me, it was about me. Like I liked having those conversations. I liked having someone who was getting to know me on the deeper level, and we moved through that. Then when it became apparent that, okay, we're going to do this boyfriend-girlfriend thing, or okay, yeah, we like each other. Then it became about, all right, compatibilities and okay, now I see where we're meshing. Then you take it to the next level in terms of leadership. It became really apparent, and tying it back to EOS and visionaries and integrators, it became very apparent very quickly at what personality suited what better. Peter can see the forest through the trees. I see the trees, and he can pull me out of the weeds. I can pull him and ground him. There was one Enneagram book that we read together that talked about his personality type, will help my personality type, soar up and dream big and blah, blah, blah. And I will, hold him by the ankles and bring him down to earth and go, okay, let's have a plan. So long story, but it brings vulnerability. And so we make our staff as part of that hiring process. So to bring it back around to hiring, before your second interview with CIPR, you are taking an Enneagram personality test and coming back to the table with that knowledge. And our clients also do an Enneagram test as a part of onboarding. And it, again, is now this level.
You do it with the clients as well at a modified level?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So part of our.
Have you ever had pushback with that, Christina? Like, have you been like, what the hell? You guys are out to lunch. We just want digital marketing.
I haven't. I've had people skip it, and then I don't pry, right? I still talk about our personality types in the meeting because it's important to us. But it's funny, and
What's your disc? What two letters of disc are you? I think we're the same.
Well, we're inverse. Like, I'm a DC.
Yeah.
And you're
I'm a strong C with D. And when Kevin Hanlon read me my disc profile, he's like, yeah, this isn't normal. And he goes, at all. He goes, typically we see this. And he goes, yeah, you're in like the 1.5% that which he goes, it makes all the sense in the world now who you are. I'm like, thanks, Kevin. So again, you want to be an ops manager, you're basically going to be a CD, and you're going to be an A in the sense of alpha, and you're not going to listen to a lot of people because you are the integrator, and that's what you are. You are an attack forward person.
Yeah.
You are not a grazer in the farmland saying, tell me what seeds to plant and what bushes to water. You are, I'm going forward, and are you coming with me? So yeah, I still remember Kevin Hanlon. He just looked at me and he shook his head and he goes, like a smirk, and he goes, yeah, you ain't normal. I'm like, thanks, Kevin. Sandlered me 101.
Oh,
and how crazy is that you're a CD as well? Like, again, we're so different, you and I, even though we're not. And we have the same personality assessment. So Christina's Peter. If Christina doesn't work out or you're done with her, I'm another CD that if you want to put me through a test, I'll get on your motorcycle.
You would. But
he'd love it too. We just talk AI and mountains and others male stuff. It'd be great.
Bro, a true bromance.
Whoa, did you throw a bro in there, bro? Bro me?
Bromance.
No, but going back to that vulnerability and tying that testing from Christina's really personal, vulnerable, found her life partner, and tie it back to the team. What that does is it allows you to understand those team members. So first off, anybody listening, if you can afford psychometric testing or personality assessment testing, whether it's DISC or any of those ones that are viable, has opened. I've heard Mike Monahan say for a long, long time that, obviously head office uses DISC or something similar. And they almost offer to say, if you have certain instances, you can run it through our major subscription, or we can help you with that. So if you're in the position of hiring people, you should make that mandatory, because let's move into the interview process. People will tell you what they want to hear, and your job is to debunk whether you know what they're talking about or not. And some people are very good with painting a narrative, and then to Christina's point of that beginning saying, oh, I feel sick hiring, and like, is it the right decision, and so forth, is the worst feeling in the world is like getting kicked in the nuts or, hoofed with a snow shovel in the face 3 days into hiring. And you're sitting there going, please be the right pick. Please, right. And then you go like, well, I've never worked with WordPress before. and your little job application was WordPress developer. And they're like, yeah, I built all this WordPress and here's all my websites and I know how to develop and themes and plugins and this and that. And they're like, okay, here's this website. Go in and do an update on the contact page. It's like, what's WordPress and how do you get to the back end? And right away you go, oh no. And I have a story about that.
Tell me.
Oh, you want me to go there already?
Yeah.
So I was the project manager for a long time for Peter, about at least 10 years.
Mhm.
And when Peter, again, with his vision, wanted me to take the next level, which would have been VP of operations and manage the operations of the team, he's like, Mike, you've got to get out of project management. And this was very hard for me, both personally, mentally, and professionally, because I had took such an ownership of that department that this is mine.
Yeah.
And it's going to be done this way. And if I let anybody else do it, then it's not going to run at the flow that I need it to be. And at that time, respectfully, it was the truth.
Yeah.
So I spent too many years still in ops. I'm still in ops now, but I was like literally in project management on stuff that you have other people that are way smarter and way better to do. So it was time. Mike, we need to hire a project manager? You're over capacity. You're not focused on the stuff that this is Peter talking, I need you to do to help the business for me. Okay, so we went through the hiring process. Grueling. I'll tell anybody now, I know this is a segue, do not put a job application out that says web project manager or project manager, because everybody in the world thinks they're a project manager, and then they think just because the title's project manager that they can come from manufacturing 101 and be a project manager in digital marketing and web development, and they are not the same things, my friend. You are not pushing pencils. You are not sitting there just sending emails. You are on fire all day, because that is what ops is. And you need to read and react. You need to strategize. You need to get your hands dirty. You have to, you're everything. So we did this. We did not do psychometric testing on this particular hiring initiative. We have done it in the past, and it was very rewarding, and I'll get back to that. But we went through the process, grueling, exclude. Then we found someone, and I was enamored with them. Didn't love the resume, didn't love the work history, but to your point earlier, saw potential. Person spoke very well in 2 interviews with me, said the right things. And I am not an easy interview. I am the bad cop in the interview. Like, you don't get to me until Peter massages you as the owner, and then somebody else gets all, and then I come in saying, like, I'm going to break you. And the reason for that, and everybody that knows me, like, yeah, that's Mike. But the reason being is, yeah, my job is to break you, because I don't want you on my goddamn team if you're going to blow smoke up my ass. I need you to do a job. I want you to do the job. I will give you the shirt off my back to make sure that you have anything impossible for support. But you need to do the job. And if you can't do the job, then sorry, don't waste our time, because we are an 8-9 person agency and everyone wears 7 hats. Everybody can't take 5 more hats because you can't hold your weight, especially if you've been hired for a pivotal role to solve a major demand in a department.
Yeah.
So said enough that I said, you know what, let's give him a chance. Came on board, training him. He's a little sheepish, a little novice, a little this, a little that. Okay, it's training, gave him ample training as far as I can do. And then I said, I dropped him in the deep end. And I said, okay, WordPress, get in the back end and figure this out and this and that and whatever else. And I came back to him like 3 or 4 days later, and he was like a deer in headlights. And I said, what's up? He goes, yeah. He goes, not too comfortable navigating the back end of WordPress. And I literally said to him on a Zoom call, I'm like, you literally put in your resume, and half of our interview process was talking about WordPress. It clearly said in our job description that we are a WordPress hub, and we do WordPress all day, eat, sleep, breathe, shit it. And now you're telling me that you can't even log into the back end and navigate the dashboard. And he's like, yeah, I'll get up to speed. Long story short. Okay. So that was that moment for me where literally Peter just knew, he took his steel-toed boot and said, Mike, how hard can I hit you in the junk? And I felt horrible, because now you're saying, how do I get out of it?
Yeah.
If you immediately want to fire them, no matter if it's probation period, you've got to be careful with that. By the way, a tip here back to our audience of Understanding Ops. If you're hiring somebody, no matter whether it's an office admin, a project manager, a grunt, or even a marketing person, put them on a 3 to 6 month probation. They do not deserve a full-time salary and everything up front, because you are going to bury yourself. Probation is there to protect you for exactly what I just shared of the oh shit moment.
Yeah.
Do a probation. But again, if they get through the probation and then you get the uh-oh moment, now it's a matter of, are you going to formally terminate them? And then you have to figure out compensation and all the legalities that go with that it costs the agency money.
Wow.
Because in today's world, nobody ain't happy about getting fired. So what do they want to do? Let's go get a job employment lawyer and sue the agency for malpractice of termination of employment, which is not factual, but everybody wants to do it. So you have to protect yourself. You can't just go in and say, hey, F you, you're fired. That don't work in today's world. And we've had people where, again, 15 years ago, I remember Peter had a team member in the boardroom and you just saw this gentleman walk out and Peter comes and says, that guy's gone. And no harm, no qualm, no secondary stuff, but it was just like, not a good fit. Okay, I'm out. You're out. Thanks. Have a good day. Can't do that now. So again, going back to that story is like, you have to protect yourself. You have to vet. So again, going back to Christina's psychometric testing, that's a great way to understand the person's personality. I'll give you another example. We were trying to hire for the same
Wait, did
role.
you fire this guy?
No. So me being the forever optimist that I'm not, I said, you know what, a team member is a project. I can groom this guy. I can make this gal what I want them to be. Patience, Mike. Give them more. We'll get them there. Again, we'll teach the skills.
Yeah.
Well, person was with us for a year. Did some projects. Was working on a major project, a major project for me. I'm talking north of $65,000.
Okay.
This was my first thing saying, Mike, you must step away. Trust these people, get updates, get it done. Then the person came to me in December and said, like, client's not happy with the progress, this and that. I want to show you this and that, whatever else. And we were supposed to go live before Christmas. And it looked like we had spent 27 minutes on this project build and it had been in our hopper for 7 months. And literally I was like, what the fuck have we done for 7 months for this amount of money? And now we're 2.5 weeks. And I like, there's nothing done. This is a massive custom project. And it was like, oh, well, yeah. And I'm like, okay. So then I had to call the customer and basically put my tail between my legs and say, look, we're not going to meet your deadline. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Please give me an extension. Thankfully, they were very respectful and very professional and said, thanks, Mike, for owning up to this. And I'm not happy, but we'll comply.
Yeah.
So I got to the Christmas break. And then I got a text message the day before Christmas break was over. Hey, can I talk to you? Well, that's not good because I don't talk to staff on Christmas break. So I called them up, said, what's up? Yeah, I found another job. I'm putting my 2 weeks in tomorrow. And so, okay, well, that sucks. So now I'm back in ops. And then I have to look at this massive project. And then I really get in there and I go, oh my God, I can't get this out in 3 weeks like I promised the customer. I'm going to need months to finish this if I work at this every day. So then I spent the next 6.5 weeks working every hour of the minute, the day, and the evening, trying to push this out to save a very valuable, long-standing customer that we've had a good track record with. And it was one of those projects that breaks you. And it was just such a disappointing moment of the pillowcase being over my head for months, of somebody telling me things were good. Because again, we don't, as ops managers, we don't want to micromanage people.
No.
We don't want to say, Emily, tell me everything you're working on today. That's not the way ops works. That's not the way culture is built. People don't want you Christina tapping on their shoulder saying, I want to know what you're working on. They want the autonomy and the respect to do their job until you have to rein them back in.
Yeah.
And this was such a story of just, oh my God. And look, no ill will to that person. It was a learning experience. Obviously, I never want to say to our Peter or to our company that was a wasted investment. It wasn't. But what it showed, and the positive of this is what it showed us through pain was we had the right project manager in the wings, and he was my understudy in the department for years. At the first time we tried to bring him to do this, he wasn't experienced enough, confident enough, mature enough. And he did fail in his own way. But in fairness, he only failed because I failed him because I was the leader and I wasn't able to give him enough support and attention at the time to help him grow. Well, this happened. And then so our Peter says to me, well, Mike, we got to go back to the board. I said, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this investment of a year to learn and invite somebody in and, this and that. I can't do this again. I said, we got to go to our guy, Lenny, and we got to see if he wants it. And I called him up one night and I said, Lenny, sidebar. And I said, like, hey, sorry to shock this on you at 9 o'clock at night, but I'm like, what are your thoughts about wanting to take the next step and go back? And he looked right at me. He goes, dude, I want it. And I'm ready. I said, then you have my commitment that I'm not going to fail you again, and let's do it. And Lenny's been in that role now for over 2 years. And it's one of the best decisions I ever made. And one of the best decisions that Peter said yes to give this man a chance. And now he's spearheading my production department. And so what that means for me is I have confidence in now the person that is running it, because at the very, very least, he watched me and he worked in tandem with me for over 10 years on how to do the production side of the business. He had all the tools. And then I had to mentor him just to bring him into the leadership capacity.
Okay, 2 big points there.
Sure. Sorry. You asked for like a story and I just gave you a novel.
No, I think it's a great story. Good work.
Good job, Mike. Yay.
Okay, the first is, and we can segue this one to hiring process, because the slow to hire, quick to fire. And I have many stories around that, because I would do the same thing, right? Okay, yeah, we'll work with them. And it's like, when you know. And that's why that 3-month probation is so important, because in 3 months, in 4 weeks, you really know in
that?
2 months.
I'm not contesting it, but do you believe that? Do you believe that within 4 weeks to 3 months, you will be able to properly gauge?
If you are gauging based on personality and fit with the team, which is all I'm doing in the first 3 months. Okay. I know this individual, right? The skill set, the learning, the whatever. I mean, the capacity to learn and the willingness and the attitude around learning, which is part of the whole equation. But now, with the amount of hiring and firing I have had to do over the course of my time at CIPR, I know 2 months max. 2 months max, I know. 6 weeks.
Since you've had a lot of hire and fire for whatever reason, no, I don't mean that to be pretentious.
I know.
But no, there's a good question out of that is, so you reflect and you say, I've had to do a lot of this. So as a more mature Christina now than even 2 years ago, if you kind of did some soul searching for yourself, or maybe even you and Peter at that time being the true leadership of CIPR, what do you think the problem was in that process that led to so much turnover? Was it again, evolving your process of what's important to assess and understand? Is it your expectations were too high or giving people the benefit of the doubt? Like, what is it now in your reflection that makes you a smarter ops and business owner to approach this type of hiring, so that you're never gonna say, I'm a hiring and firing agency? Because that's also bad for culture. And that's also bad for your own mental health, because that means you're stuck in a vicious circle of not being able to get out of that, versus saying like, hey, Mike, it's a Thursday night. Here's your WhatsApp message. I just hired an ass kicker and I'm so excited. And then 2 weeks later, say, Mike, this lady's a game changer. She's gonna compliment Karen and Emily and Jay and others so well. I cannot wait for the opportunity here. Like, what is it for you?
Yeah. I mean, everything comes back to experience, obviously. To your point, I think even 2 years ago, by the end of the year, I was so burnt out because we had burned through that hiring and firing process. And I felt in those moments that I had let my team down, because those that had stuck around, and we had a thriving agency. I mean, we still have a thriving, but at the time it was like we were growing in revenue. We were doing the right things on paper to everyone on the outside. It was great. And I felt like by the end of that year, I was like, I don't even want to develop culture anymore. I invest in these people, they leave, they this, they that. So it's like,
so you almost demoralized yourself and saying, I don't give a shit about my core values. I don't give a shit about this anymore. Again, I'm so jaded of this process. It's almost like a fuck this kind of thing, where the mistake in that is that it's the fundamental aspect of hiring, and the fundamental principle of the agency is to ensure that is unquiveringly not bastardized or altered, right? That is the foundation of CIPR. And if you, again, you don't stick to that stuff, then everything else is noise because you got the wrong person for the wrong reason.
And I think it's, fortunately or unfortunately, sometimes you just get it right. And sometimes you just get it wrong. And
yes. And that's a fair thing to reflect on too, that there's not a perfect science. You are going to make 3 bad hires to get one real good one that you can evolve. It may even be 5 to 1. It's going to happen.
Well, and as long as you are quick to fire, which sucks, it sucks because there are definitely moments where I'm like, oh God, like I really liked this, or oh man, I fucked up this decision again. But the faster you get them out of there, the less fingerprints are left. And
Oh, so well said.
It takes double, in my experience, it takes double the amount of time of someone there to roll it all back.
Yes.
So if someone was
Such a great point. There's too many fingerprints all over your work, your clients, your ops. How do you get all those fingerprints off? Oh my God. So again, like, and I think maybe that's another good point just to share about staff or hiring is, being okay to terminate quickly if those warning signs are there. Because let's be honest too, Christina, another thing I wanted to add to this and see, get your opinion, since again, you have experience with this, is how many agencies hold on to people for too long because they're afraid of firing. They don't want to hurt the human element. Or even it's just the perception, right, of the unknown, and fear is, we're not going to find anybody better. Oh. So what we have is good enough. But you already have the warning signs. You already know there's an issue. You know it's going to add more fingerprints to the downfall of your ops department. But you're like, no, this is the best we've ever had, so this should be good enough. No, strive to be better, because if you find 5% better and then somebody new that aligns with the core values and again has the attitude, the initiative, and the desire to want to succeed and progression, that 5% is astronomically better on your bottom line, and you'll see it in your profits, and you'll also see it in your company culture. Because go back to what Christina said at the beginning, these other people have to work in tandem, and if they don't like each other, they can't trust each other, they can't Christina's accountable to me, and then they're not, then that's going to really ruin them. And then the downfall of that, talk about staff, is you got some people that will come to Christina, Mike, saying there's a problem and I need to share it with you privately and please help. But let's be honest, most staff don't talk. They talk to each other at the water cooler. They talk to each other in MS Teams when you're not around. And now you have toxicity because you have water cooler talk bitching about the agency or the culture or a dividance in the team. The second piece to that is also, you do not want a really important team member, no matter what skill, what pay grade, internalizing that, stewing on it, and then quietly say, hey, Christina, hey, Jane, how are you? I quit. What? Yeah, I can't do it here. I love you, Christina. You and Peter have been great to me, but I fucking hate this place. I can't sleep. I go home crying every night. I feel disrespected and mistreated. And you're sitting there going like, this isn't me and Peter at all. It's not you and Peter. Yeah. It's other factors that you didn't know. And you can't afford, again, let's go back to your team, a Karen and Emily, since we're shouting out those two ass kickers and ops. Yeah. Can't lose those type of people that are the spine of your ops. And that's really what it is. Christina is the brain, but the brain is only held up by the spine. And the spine is those people that make you stand up straight. So you really got to be careful of this while assessing. Like you said, firing too quickly is not a bad thing. But let's take the other devil's advocate, is firing too quickly is a reactionary approach. Yeah. You must have facts. You must have proof. You have to articulate it objectively. And you cannot use your gut or your own emotional feelings, because as soon as you do that, then you're going to say something wrong. And then again, there's HR Nightmare 101, meaning a lawyer. Or number two, there's not going to be proper grounds for, if you had to prove why you dismissed them, that this was the reason why. And if you have proof that's, I have a documentation of multiple issues, they were written up on this day and that day, and they complied and signed. We had to put them on a PIP, performance improvement plan, to give them a chance for 3 to 6 months to improve. If all those things are documented, then again, if you have to pull that trigger and say, this is unfortunate, we got to do it, you're also going to have the peace of mind that you can move forward intelligently. You're not going to have to pay out money for reckless abandonment. And also you protect your agency from going down the toilet in the sense of toxicity. And that's what ruins culture and what ruins morale. And that's the only two things that we have in our arsenal to motivate our team members to put the best output they can forward.
It's true. I just put a little note in our fancy spreadsheet
Your,
around, I wrote,
your tab that looks like it was written by a kindergarten cop.
it still does, and now there's spelling mistakes in it too, but I wrote documentation of shitty behavior because I do want to have a conversation with you about that. We have something
of shitty behavior.
Always watching.
We have something at CIPR called the corrective track. And we also have an incentive track. And I know, like, I think that would be a cool, so I'm putting a pin on it. I'm putting it in the spreadsheet because you need process, like to your point, you need process around all of those things. I mean, to counter this point too, early on, the individual who's joined the team who is not meshing with the team knows they are not also not meshing. So sometimes there is a conversation where it's just like, how is it going?
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Well,
And
even so much so to that, it's on both sides. Hey, again, I'm just picking on CIPR because of your ladies, but hey, Emily, hey, Karen, hey, so-and-so, how's it going? You get that feedback.
yeah,
You have your own thoughts and feelings and documentation, and then you have your private with the actual person, and you see, do they jive or are you being fed two stories? Because that's where you can't live as an ops manager, is hearing both and then jumping on something and then again harming the good people over here that were trying to actually help you, or listening to waffling over here that is so malicious, narcissistic, wrong, and then you're sitting there going like, and again, I can't have this in our agency because again, guys, we are specialists. We truly are. Remember I said early in these podcasts, you have to be sticky, unique selling proposition. Christina said it brilliantly at the beginning of this episode. It's us. It's the staff. That's the only unique advantage we have. Everybody says they can do SEO, PPC, digital marketing, consulting, PR. Everybody thinks they can do what we do. What is the unique differentiator? It's us. It's Christina's brain, my brain, Stuart's brain, Emily's brain. That's what you're paying for, is good, experienced people that, remember I said, that can do the shit that others can't. And if you can showcase that in core values, in responsibilities, and then accountability of fulfillment, that's when ops gets fun. And that's when team building or staff building is actually exciting, because now you're sitting there saying like, I'm building my own project and I'm moving the pieces of the project around. And now we just look at the org chart and say, how does it all jive the right way? And that's when agency management becomes fun, because now you're building something versus just putting out the fires, and putting out fires is staff, because that's the human element and personalities, and you can't control that. You have to navigate it.
it's true. Do you guys have a hiring process? Like what's the blueprint? What's the template that you got, like, you need to hire? What's the piece of paper that gets pulled out?
Yeah, so our process has gotten a lot better the last couple of years. A big part of that is EOS and our business coach that we had at the time, because the first thing we realized is our job description sucked. So we would go to other trusted friends. What's your job description for WordPress project manager, this, that, and whatever.
Right.
You get those, and then you just try to massage what you want. And then to our credit, our business coach, her name is Christina, love her. Hi, Christina. Not my ops Christina here, but other Christina.
Great. I like her.
She's a forfeit ass kicker in herself. We should have her on. She's a hoot. So Christina said, she goes, guys, like, this isn't employee centric. We're not defining things the right way. So she helped us completely rebuild it to be centric to the person and to truly what we needed. So you think you've got a great description, you think you've got a great island, half of it doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
Sorry. So refine it, lean on other ICs that are larger, that have done this hiring more than you have. Get a couple of examples, and then guess what? Knock, knock. We have AI now.
Yeah.
Take those three, put them into AI, say, hey, I'm looking to do this. This is the job I need. Look at these three, summarize it in the most job description savvy way that I can post on Indeed. You can do this now with a little bit of legwork. You can do all that in under 30 minutes, where I had to take 3 business coaching sessions just to carve out one job description. So job descriptions, number one, is absolutely key to have those rock tight, and you tailor it to the need. You do not standardize it because it has to be factual and accurate. Remember, if somebody's going to apply, that there is what you're going to put them to the fire for, to trial by fire, to survive that onslaught. And if they get through that, then you're enamored with whether you even want to take it to the next step. So job description 101 is the first process that must be locked tight. Then you got to figure out which mediums that you want to put it out there. So again, if you're someone that loves LinkedIn in the sense of job postings, if you're on Indeed, if you use recruiters, it doesn't matter which medium you do. Christ, our Peter told me that in the early days of Commandex, I'm talking before I got hired, he found one of his first SEO managers, and to my opinion, it's been one of the best people I've ever met in my life. His name is Faraz. I love him. He's one of my best friends. I wish he was still with me, just because me and him were a two-headed monster in the early days. But he found him on a Kijiji ad. Like, that's, like, how crazy is that? And to this day, Peter says, like, Faraz was one of the great guys in the early years that really helped spearhead when SEO was so primitive. He knew how to do it better than others at that time. And he's still kicking ass at a corporate level now with it. So you have to figure out which mediums work for you, both in cost and reliability, because some of these you're going to get garbage. Yes, it's very attractive to go get a recruiter, but you're going to pay out the ass for it. And let's be honest with recruiters. Some are very good, but others try to put you in a bucket of criteria. And then all of a sudden they're serving you things, and you go interview, the first interview, the cup of coffee, like you said, like, let's just learn you. And you're like, who the hell is this person? Like, they don't know anything about it. And then you're paying for every applicant. And if you hire them, it's XYZ amount of dollars. So you got to be mindful of where you can put the posting out and where and how you can leverage it. And I'll tell you confidently, we have used LinkedIn and Indeed a lot. And there's another one, forgive me, that I'm missing, but they have been very good to us when we've had the need to try to get applicants. So that's this next step. Then once the applications come in, historically, our Peter has vetted them because he doesn't want to waste my time in ops. So he will go through hundreds.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And
That.
Peter's great at that, because Peter's looking exactly for that potential, attitude, and is he excited by the potential of what's on the resume? He does the vetting. So he gets 800 resumes. He throws 500 out immediately because they're garbage.
Yeah.
He drills down those 300. He says, Mike, I got 10. We go through them, and now I apply my ops lens on them to say, is what he's reading, because remember, Peter's 25,000 feet. He's the owner.
Yeah.
He knows what he wants. I know what we need.
Yeah.
So I look at it and say, this is bullshit. He's out. This one here, she's got spelling mistakes, and you can tell English isn't her first language. So he vets it. Then I narrow it down, and then we say, okay, Peter, out of your 10, we've got 6. He will, in past times, he will reach out first. He will do the first 30 minutes to say yes or no. And he's got a very good gauge as being a 25-year experienced agency owner. He knows within 5 minutes whether he wants to give you 10 minutes of time or you got to go.
Yeah.
He does the first vetting, and he says, I think these 3-4 made it. Now it's time to play bad cop. And then I come in next, and now that next interview is quite uncomfortable. And when I say uncomfortable, I'm being dramatic with humor, but I'm going to make you sweat. I'm not going to sit there and say, tell me about your life story. Do you know what you know how to do? Prove it to me. And can you deal with my intensity? And if you can, I will figure out the rest, because you were able to navigate me. Because again, I'm me. I'm the leader of ops. I am paid to run that ops department. And if you can't keep up with me, if you're sweating and fumbling because of just the way I'm talking, then right away, when I put paying clients in front of you and my expectation goes tenfold, you're going to break.
It's true.
So I'd rather you break in that interview and waste my time for 45 minutes than waste my time for $70,000 a year and then a year of lost hope. And now, again, like you said, beginning, I have to restart again, because that for ops or that for ICs or owners is demoralizing.
Yeah.
And I hear that so much. Like, I thought this person was going to be great. She had all the right signs. Now I got to start over. And it's basically for people that are smaller, even the big agencies, restarting means day one. And that means as well, when you're leaner, you don't have time to go prospect. You don't have time to go and grow. You don't have time to work on the business that all ICs want and desire to do. Now you're stuck in ops, handling ops. And that's a big problem. So that's the process to get to the second interview. If they get past me, then what I do is I assess with Peter saying, do they need another interview where I feel like I have to ask 5 really candid questions that seal the deal? Do I go to my digital marketing director or somebody else and say, I didn't ask this and this, should we? So you get informed.
Right.
And then so that's a maybe in the sense of a third, because you also got to be respectful of people, right? Like if you're going to run them through 3, 4, 5 interviews, that's a lot of investment of their time. And if you're just going to sit there and chop them respectfully, that's also not fair while still doing your duty. So you got to be efficient and constructive. And also, a lot of people will say, like, sometimes, especially in production, we will want them to do an exercise.
Yeah.
Can you assess this page and tell me why CRO is garbage? Can you look at this and tell me what's wrong from a QA standpoint? Like, I'm talking maybe 30 minutes to an hour at a time, because you're trying to gauge practical.
Yeah.
Well, you can't necessarily ask people just to do something. They're going to say, like, that's a lot, man. Piss off. And they're going to go find the next person because there's somebody else that wants to hire them. But maybe what you can say is, we're going to pay you for your time. So, for example, our hourly rate is $145 an hour. We will pay you $150 to invest this hour to do this constructively, because it's going to help your evaluation of whether we're going to bring you on. That's a great way to get somebody to do that extra step while also making respectfully a little bit of investment in them, because time is money, everybody. Then from there, don't undervalue references, even though that seems to be of the past. I still ask for references, and I ask for 2 work references, and I ask for 1 personal character reference. Yeah. If they can't give you that right away, they're disqualified. Yeah. Because I need to hear objectively from people who you really are versus who you want to tell me you are.
Yeah.
And then from there, I do personally the reference checks. I have a list of questions and I grind. And if I like what they're saying about that person, and I feel it's not a dog and pony show just massaging for your buddy, then I will go to Peter and I will say, Peter, I think you should entertain taking this over and putting a contract in front of them for what you feel the role allows in our wages. The only thing I'll say, so that's my process. The only thing I will say is, moving forward, I would like to implement psychometric testing in that process. We did do it for a couple of applicants in the past. Those applicants weren't great, but it was not their fault, and it was not the psychometric testing's fault. But I love that. I love that approach, because again, what you can't gauge in a boardroom, and now post-COVID, we're doing interviews like this, Christina, on the screen. Yeah. You can't get with people.
No.
So the psychometric testing will tell you exactly like Christina said about her, Peter, is, this guy is an A personality. He's an alpha. He's going to butt heads. He's going to fight you. And then Christina sits there and says, well, I'm an A. That won't work. You can't have a project manager that's an A personality alpha and have an ops integrator manager that's an alpha as well. You can't have 2 alphas in the same playground, because they will just buck heads all day.
Yeah.
So you need to understand that, because you'll sit there again, will this person fit? What do they need to succeed? Where are they going to have issues and struggle? And then again, going back to the core values again, tie it to the core values then and say, will this align with core value A, B, C, D, E, F? And if it does, and you've done all that due diligence, which you could easily do within 2 weeks,
yeah,
then you can go ahead and put that attractive offer out. And now it's the game of saying, in that first 3 months, do they prove that they're up to snuff? And then that's when the control is outside of your direct control, which is now you got to ride with your decision. And now you've got to see if they can sink or swim. And if you realize that they can't swim, then sorry, but you have to drown them. Because again, you cannot allow your ops department to drown in the ocean when this person's drowning in the shallow end.
It's true. Yeah. Our hiring process, similar but different. I will say I hate external posting. I do it very sparingly. I do the networking thing. Do you know anybody? Do you know anyone? Do you internally first, then I move to kind of my bigger network, then maybe a little bit further out. It's always a last resort.
Have you found it gives you a better element of comfort, or even a better pool of applicants? Because it's look, the referral analogy is infectious, right? In business, and in that, does that help you, or you're like, it's just the safest first step for you versus that scary, here's 3,000 applicants from all across the world on Indeed thinking that they're going to work in local Calgary for this wage?
I think it feels safer. And you know what? Maybe our Peters need to talk because my Peter doesn't do any sort of vetting. It all comes to me. So there is this selfish part of I don't have time to vet 500 resumes.
Yeah.
So there is a time I don't want the garbage. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to be really targeted. My favorite approach right now is I will go on to LinkedIn and look, I'll go find someone that I know is really capable that doesn't work for me, or sometimes even a staff person that works for me. And I will look at their second connections. So the ones I'm not necessarily connected with, and then I'll be creative in there in terms of my search, marketing, social media, whatever I'm looking for in the moment. And inevitably, 24 pop up. I'll go to them and say, do you know these people? Because let's face it, LinkedIn, we're all connected with a bunch of people. We have no idea who they are and how they got there.
Yeah.
So that has been a strategy for me that has worked, knock on wood. For us, hiring, okay, resume, first conversation is like a 15-minute with the person who referred. So if it's, if Karen has said this person, Joe, is going to be a good fit for this, she has a really candid, quick conversation with them about the job, about the environment, about me, about working for me, about working for a married couple. And that's like the vet. And usually you start to get a vibe, especially if you know them, like, oh, I don't necessarily think this is going to work, or oh, they mentioned that they hate video calls, or they wouldn't be strong working from a remote environment. And then we know right away.
Yeah.
First one then is usually Peter and I, the first hour, having the conversation, right? It's a nice kind of mix of the two of us. You get the very visionary. I imagine it is like you and your Peter's first two interviews, but we sandwich it into one. If we're both feeling it and they are too, that's when we throw in a free test. So we don't even go to a paid test first. We go throw a free test in. This, and then right up front, I ask for salary expectations, because the worst thing I have learned is you get all the way through, you're talking to a person for a month, you're absolutely in love with,
Excited, and they want $170,000.
and you're like, wow, go get that somewhere else.
And
Let me.
now Christina thought she had her ace in the sleeve, and now she's back to ground one, hoping that she can find somebody that's capable. So yes, lesson learned, ICs. Ask the question about compensation right from the get-go in that first meeting, because right there is your first temperature check of whether they're even going to comply with what you can do and what you can offer. And if it's not, then be respectful. And the other thing too with that is when you defer or say, sorry, you're outside my price, but you'd be amazed how many people will come down.
It's true. No, it's
Because they're
very true.
programmed, they're told even from college now, and I know this because it happened to me. You should be, they told us in college, green as goose shit, don't know anything about anything. And I had a professor in college say, once you hit the streets, you should be going out easily looking for $70,000. This was in 2006, this advice.
Palsy.
Well, I didn't start making $70,000 till a lot longer than that. And my point is not being funny. My point being is that it's such a false narrative. So the younger generations, unfortunately, are getting programmed saying your worth is X already. And people like us that have grown up painfully in the business saying, no, you started entry level, and entry level is not anymore $35,000.
No.
Entry level is entry level, but you have to prove yourself to make 70, 80, 90, $100,000, no matter what the title is.
Yeah.
It's proof it's proof in results, it's proof in performance, it's proof in attitude. And if all those things jive, you will get that.
Yeah.
But do not let them sit there and hold that back, and then let that be the hammer that hits you in the head in interview 3, where you were literally ready to give them that awesome $65,000 a year contract and this and that and whatever else. And they say, yeah, I was kind of looking for ×2.
Totally.
And then your agency, which is you, somebody else, and somebody else, can't have that type of money on the books because you don't have that type of money coming in. Again, your wages have to be proportionate to the size of your agency. And that's one thing my Peter has taught me, which is, Mike, it's all great to hire. It's all great to do what else. But like, and credit to Neil Lappy about this full-time employee value and stuff is you really get into business data the right way. And you understand that, for example, Emily has to contribute to $165,000 of recurring business.
And if now we're at $180,000 business, Emily is exhausted.
Yeah.
That's the trigger for Christina and Peter to hire, because now it's factual versus Emily coming and saying, "Oh my, Christina, it's such a tough day, and I'm so overwhelmed and I'm so overloaded." That's all subjective, emotional, reactionary thoughts and feelings. And then what does every good ops manager say? Show me your time tracking and we'll discuss it and figure out, well, I don't do time tracking and I hate it. Well, then don't come to me and tell me that you're overwhelmed.
Fuck.
Yeah. Because again, they have no legs to stand, and you're not trying to belittle them and make them feel small. If the
No.
truth, if you can't prove this to us, then we cannot go to support, because no ownership team is going to say, Emily, thanks, but shut up and keep working. You don't want to burn out your stars.
Yeah.
But your stars have to perform at a level of acceptable outcome to
Yeah.
be able to justify their wage before you can even turn it up and say, hey, Peter Cisnewski, hey, Christina Polarski, we need another resource. Will you dip into your cash flow and give the ops team another $70,000 of a resource? The first thing any owner's saying, well, that's coming out of my bottom line. I'm like, is it worth it? Do we need it? Or are we just trying to solve an immediate solution? And our Peter has been very, very good in talking me off the ledge for that, because I'm emotional. And in
Yeah.
the younger years, I would be like, I'm burned out. I'm overwhelmed. I can't, you're selling like crazy, Peter. I can't take any more on, man. Like, I remember at 8 o'clock at night crying in his office, like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And he looks at me with that Polish smirk and he says, Mike, I'll give you whatever you need. But he goes, show me the time tracking that shows how busy you are, and I'll make the case for what resource you need. And I looked right at him and I said, well, I don't do time tracking, Peter, because I'm too effing busy and I hate it. And he goes, well, that's the problem right there. You can't justify your pain to me. How can I help you objectively without harming the agency?
Yeah.
Another life lesson he told me. So anybody that's listening to this, if your team is complaining, whining, arguing, complaining about these type of things of overwhelming and too much, you have to have data to prove it. That way you can constructively review it with your management. You need to tie that back to the business data that the leadership team evaluates for the health and growth of the business. And you tie that time tracking and volume of work back to the full-time equivalent value of an employee. And if the two of those make sense, it will tell you black and white, do you need to hire, or are you inefficient or unproductive? It is as black and white of that. There's always a little bit 1% left and right, but it is truly can be that streamlined, because what you don't want to do is hire bad. You don't want to hire too quickly, because then if you don't have enough money coming in, you've got way too much cost.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think, hitting the trigger on hiring, which is a whole other conversation, is you need the data to be able to do that. So,
Yes.
okay, for me, 15-minute conversation, then the conversation with Peter and I, then your personality testing,
Mhm.
salary expectations. My next interview, so second interview, third, if you're counting that quick 15-minute first conversation, is Peter and I are not invited to those. It is with two, sometimes three, generally two of your colleagues.
So just to cut in, that first 15 minutes, meeting one and meeting two with applicant A, for example, that would be Emily and Karen getting a gauge at the team level of that person before even Peter and you are going to get in and say, we're ownership and let's really start drilling down.
It could be if it's their referral. I want that to be like the friendly, if it's my referral, like if it's someone I know, I'm going to have that quick coffee with them and say, look, like this is the process. This is what you're getting yourself into, but this is also the agency and me. What do we think? And they go, yeah, I think I want to go through this process. Or, you know what? You sound like a bunch of bozos. No thanks. And you both go along your happy way. So that meeting with the team, I mean, I've never sat in them, so I don't know exactly how they go, but it gives applicant the ability to ask any question,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. They
And
won't ask you everything up front.
the questions that they ask the team are always very telling.
Yes.
Right? It shows the things that matter to them. And then for the team, now it is their chance to really assess cultural fit. And you know what? I have heard from the team, this is sometimes where you get some of the funny questions. I've heard them ask the spirit animal question, but they're building camaraderie already. And that is
Yes.
who we are. We have to be able to be goofy during the day. We have to be able to talk about your rising sign. And, those are when you all of a sudden go, okay, yeah, all right, Karen on the team, she wants to know what your astrological sign is. And you either go, ooh, she's too much, or, oh, I love this stuff. The team gives a really solid assessment, because there are some times when people come back and go, oh, geez, this no. And then many times, and what the team will do too is they will prompt me. You need to ask a bit more about this.
So important, because what you're saying is your team's actually the more objective people than you are. You're jaded because you have way too many initiatives that you have to accomplish. They're going to tell you the real deal, because they know that, it's in their best interest to be honest with you, because again, they're protecting their livelihood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're going to tell you exactly the way it is, because they don't want somebody coming into their house that's going to be a hoarder that, leaves it a mess.
And, hot tip.
Yeah.
Now, if you do have to fire someone, which I have had to do in the more recent months, they also take ownership. And not that anyone has to take ownership of it, but, oh, that person pulled the wool over all our eyes. Not just, oh, fuck, Christina sucks at hiring and she should have known that this person was a bozo. It's like, yeah, that person showed up really well. And man, that sucks. That could have been something, but we get it. And so for me as the ops person, selfishly, it takes a little bit of heat off me in the process, in terms of now everybody, well, not everybody, but most people's eyes are on it.
Yeah.
Third, so second, same with you. Now, after that second interview, there's an assignment. Depending on the position, we have pre-crafted assignments that'll come to the table.
Can we talk for a moment about sharing with the network some of what those project examples will be? Like we said, assessing a CRO opportunity on a landing page. I'll just start. CRO on a landing page, evaluate an existing PPC campaign that maybe isn't sensitive to say, where would you improve the efficiencies of this optimization? Giving them a website of a customer that you're already doing SEO for, not that you're trying to bulldoze your existing SEO team, but saying, look at the health of this account and let me know from an SEO perspective, how good is it and what would you improve? Because then you can compare your internal initiatives with what they're saying. Do they jive? Are they aligned? Do they make you better? So what type of projects or what type of tasks do you and Peter like to commonly ask somebody? Obviously they're different per department, but what's something that's really worked well for you?
I love doing ones where you can see communication style. So sometimes I will give a reel or made up email from a client with an issue. And how do you solve? How do you communicate? How are you going to communicate this now with the team? And so very theoretical, very hypothetical, but at this point they've met a few team members. They should have been asking, what do you all do? How do you fit? And so now client from ABC company is setting your hair on fire because you fucked something up. How are you responding? And because that to me, that's the cultural fit, but that's also, am I going to be able to trust this person with my clients?
Problem solving strategy. How do you do this? How do you do it? Like right away, you're going to see, do they get it? Do they want it? And are they able to do it?
And it's about communication style, because you're not going to get 100% of, what you do and where you, but if that communication jives, my biggest suggestion to the network is save those fuck ups on your side and then give them to the applicant and say, what would you have done here? So the client sent this is what the landing page looked like. Here was the feedback from the client. How do you communicate? How do you move forward? How do you fix it? And I think those are
especially if you're trying to get ops people. If you're trying to get ops people, which need to practically push out fulfillment, you need to see what fulfillment capabilities they have. Because again, if they can't move the needle forward 1%, your ops is going to be in hell. And when that fulfillment bottles up, money stops coming in, because the only way to keep money coming in is to have fulfillment pushing things out month over month. Can I tell you a funny story to wrap up?
Yeah.
Well, this first part's not funny, but what I mean is, like, my test, I remember this from 2009. When I got hired, in that story I shared in episode 1, they sent me a landing page. And I had to slice it, because remember, the original role was envisioned to be HTML, CSS. I was an ops dev guy. So I had to show them, could I slice a page? And what I heard from Peter afterwards was he took the package I gave, he gave it to his senior developer that he had internally at that time. His name was TJ, was the original employee for Peter, was with him in the early days.
Yeah.
And he said, vet this kid. And I remember Peter told me, TJ said, yeah, he'll be all right. So I got the validation from the most senior developer that I was at least capable to be in his department. So to your point, you're just talking about that. Can Emily come back to Christina and say, you know what, I'm interested in Mike being on the team? That validation for you, that validation from TJ to Peter was what he said, okay, let's give this kid a chance at the time. The funny story is Lenny, the gentleman I talked about as being the right fit for our project manager, and he's our project manager now. So Lenny came in. I've had the fortunate blessing of having Lenny since he was literally 15, 16 years old. Literally. And like he's in his early 30s now, and he still looks like he's 18 years old, but he's been with me a long, long time. Came in, he did a co-op with Peter way back when in like high school or college. He got out of college from graphic design and he came back. And Peter loves that as it's the mentoring approach from nothing to something. That's how Peter's built a lot of his team, and I give him a credit for that. He comes in, and now pistol hungry Mike or piss and vinegar Mike comes out and says, now I got to tell this kid the way the world works because he's going to work with me. So I gave him a task. I gave him our number one client. It was a site that we used to build in Dreamweaver. Now we're going back a while.
Oh boy.
And I said, go ahead and update this template, update this page. I'm going to give you an hour. Okay, no problem. Sat in the ops room. He broke the entire website. So what did I do? You kind of pretend that he's all uncomfortable. He was uncomfortable in the interview. The poor kid just didn't have speaking skills at the time. He's 16 years old, 18 years old. He's so nervous. I'm an asshole. I'm grilling this kid versus trying to be a mentor for him. And I go to Peter. I say, not a chance. Nope. Peter hired him the next day. See the pattern? Everything I say, Peter does the opposite. And that's the dynamic between me and Peter. But he is one of my great friends. He is one of my most trusted allies in digital marketing. And I have been with him 15 years. This kid is not even 35, and he's been with me next year 15 years.
Wow.
And now he's one of the ass kickers that runs my production department. Woo-hoo! And he's the only person in the 15 years I've been with Peter that has given me the peace of mind that I can rest at nighttime knowing that something's not burning, and at least somebody else can handle it at a competent level based on the foundation that I tried to build in those first 10 to 12 years. So shout out to Lenny. He knows that joke. I say it in front of customers. I say it in front of the team. It is the best story of me and him because it shows do not devalue people if they have the right attitude and just need time to grow the skills. He has grown the skills over 15 years. He is spearheading his life, his family, his career, and he's going to continue to be an ass kicker, and he's not even 35. Rock and roll.
So good.
So Christina, we got to wrap this up. So did we solve anything today?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Talk to you next week.
Good luck, buddy.
This angry ops guy just needs to unplug.
Here we go again.
Oh, Christ. The AI god is here.
What's going on, ops motherfuckers?
Well, that's offside. And
Oh,
thank God your wife is your HR department, because I was a customer, I'd fire your ass.
Dog ran in. The dog.
By the way, if you want tourism and AI, that's Peter Pilarski, everybody. What's up, dude?
How you doing?
Oh, I'm just, wasting your wife's time when she should be making money. And Emily is this close to getting on an antidepressant, knowing that she can't control me. So it's good.
Well, you're wasting my time now, dude. So it's all good.
Oh, you're banging your hand below camera, and I don't know if you're excited to see your wife or you've got a
I am.
tick. So get out of the camera.